Good evening and welcome to Richmond Arts Review. I'm Tom Bailey and I'm so glad you're with us tonight. Tonight we're going to talk about something I like very much, and that's theater organs. You know, the old movie palaces from the 1920s or whatever. We're going to talk about those magnificent theater organs that rise up, you know, from the bottom of the stage, and the king of instruments. My guests tonight are Jack Moelmann. Jack is president of the American Theater Organ Society. And next to Jack, we have Paul Harris, who is president of the Virginia Theater Organ Society. Now, Jack, you're an organist of great note, great fame. Have you ever played in Richmond before?
I really have never played in Richmond before. 2 years ago, we had the opportunity of holding the National Convention of the American Theater Organ Society here. And I attended all the convention concerts and everything else, but never got a chance to play any of the organs in town, unfortunately.
How do our instruments in Richmond stack up to those in the country? I mean, do we have something to be proud of here?
I think the greatest thing that you have to be proud of is that you have, for example, the Byrd Theatre that was built, I believe, in 1928 and has the original 4-manual, 4-keyboard, 17-rank, that's 14 sets of pipes, or 17 sets of pipes, theater pipe organ, the original one, still installed, still operational, heard by the public every weekend or whenever possible. You have the mosque organ in the mosque auditorium, and I think you have a great thing going, and that's why we held the convention here that year.
Yeah, I love that mosque instrument. Now, let's get a little bit of your background. Now, as we discussed the other day when we found out that we have a mutual friend in Mary Franklin through Germany, what were you doing in Germany?
Okay, in 1965, I joined the Air Force. I am still on active duty. I'm a colonel in the Air Force. I'm an electrical engineer. As an avocation, I have enjoyed music, and I play the organ and the piano, and I do that as a hobby, where other people may go out and play golf or do other things. I've taken up the theater organ, its preservation, its performance, and every opportunity I get, I enjoy playing the thing.
You're still in the Air Force then?
Yeah, I'm still in the Air Force.
Still.
I'm at Scott Air Force Base.
It seems like the rigidity sort of the Air Force doesn't mix very well.
It can be, and I'm in communications. I'm at the Air Force Communications Command at Scott Air Force Base, as I say, near St. Louis, active duty, been in 23 years. And, you know, everybody's entitled to vacation, and whenever they give me a chance, I go off and play programs. And the great people of the Virginia Theater Organ Society invited me down this weekend to play a private concert for them tomorrow morning at the Byrd Theatre, which I'm going to do.
It's really terrible that we're going to let people know about it, but they can't come.
Well, that may be true, and maybe I'll ask Paul to intervene here, because this afternoon when I got off the airplane about noon, and I went down to the Byrd Theatre to practice the organ, first time I'd ever played the organ, and the manager of the theater walked up to me and he says, "Would you play the opening concert tomorrow night when they have their film festival at the Byrd Theatre?" And their show's at about 7:15, and maybe Paul can tell you something about that, but the public is obviously invited to the
so
program.
We can pay 99 cents to go to the Byrd Theatre and hear you.
And you get what you pay for.
You're worth 99 cents, you think? Okay. Do you think, so you're in the Air Force, but do you think you could make a living as a theater organist if you chose to do just that?
I'm not sure I would want to. There are many fine and terrific organists that are out there today, and many of them have been through your town here. Lynn Larson, Ron Rode, Walt Stroney, you know, just to name a few. I enjoy it as a hobby. I don't have the time to practice to do to the nth degree that they want to do it, but I think I can entertain the people and do it as something I want to do rather than something I have to do.
Why do you think that the organ in general has such a difficult time in the United States, whereas in many countries it's such a revered instrument? It seems to have a tougher time in the States, attracting audiences, that kind of thing.
Well, first of all, I think if you deal with the subject of the organ, people know the organ because they hear it in churches every Sunday. And they have a feeling that if you're going to go to an organ concert, you're going to hear church music. And to me, there's no such thing as really church music. There may be some of the great masters of the art of organ composition, Bach, Beethoven, and some of those. When you talk about the theater organ, this is the one that grew up in the early 1900s that entertained many audiences during the days of the silent movies. Rose up majestically and was a one-man symphony orchestra or band or whatever you wanted to do. It was not just playing hymns out of the church, but provided background music to the silent movies. And then all of a sudden, the silent movies had sound. And the music, the orchestrations, you get into the Star Wars and all of that sort of thing you have today, and the stereophonic, everything that comes with that. There was no need for that sound that was there. We're trying to preserve that sound to the younger people. The older people remember what the organ sounded like. And if we could ever get the younger generation back into the theater and hear the stereophonic sound, they would be overwhelmed as to how majestic it sounds compared to the stereophonic effects that they get both from the movies today, plus even the synthesizers and the compact discs that one hears today. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what we're really trying to do. It's a mechanical thing, but it's a real instrument. It's not a synthesizer. There's nothing artificial. And
real pipes.
It's real pipes, and if they think that when they go to a theater like the Byrd Theatre here in Richmond that they're going to hear Bach or heavy classics, they may hear some. But it's still an exciting, dynamic sound that once they hear it, I think they're going to get hooked. And we've gotten a lot of young people that have gotten hooked on it.
Well, okay, let's go in. Do you find you're getting many young people into your organization?
I think we get them in once we expose them to it for the first time. In the American Theater Organ Society, of which we have close to 6,000 members, and I would like it to be 60,000 members, we have several young people that have taken up organ lessons and have found that it's a little bit more exciting to play some of the pipe organs than some of the electronics. And we're running a young organist competition every year where we get the young people to play the organs, and it's slow and it's painful. But I think we're gaining on it, but we need the help of everybody around.
Now, you mentioned silent movies. Now, I, for one, have never heard a silent movie live with a theater organ like at the Byrd. Do you all provide anything like that, or do you do that yourself? Ever accompany a silent movie?
Oh, I do it, and we've got some professionals around that do it all the time. Saturday morning TV, when you turn it on, occasionally you'll see a Laurel and Hardy movie that'll have nothing but piano music in the background. The Byrd Theatre has done several silent features, and we've got people like Gaylord Carter around that almost do that for a living as invited guests for special features. You take the movie Wings, and Lynn Lundy that plays at the Byrd Theatre has put on special shows. And it's a real exciting thing when you want to go back to the film heritage where it all started, rather than just getting entrapped with all of the showbiz and computer graphics that we have today. I think the young people and the old people, senior citizens and all that, need to understand what our film heritage was. And it just didn't all start with the lasers and all the trick photography that we have today.
I would like to remind our viewers to give us a call at 353-1111. Isn't that easy to remember? 353-1111, and ask Jack or Paul a question. I'm going to get to you, Paul, a little later. We want you to call in and ask a question, so give us a dial. Jack, let's talk about your background. What did you start as a pianist? What was your early training?
You may not want to hear this, but I started playing piano when I was about 7 years old, and being an electrical engineer, or interested in electronics. I wasn't an electrical engineer then. I was interested in switches and stuff, like everybody grew up. But, you know, I'm 47 years old tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
I'm advertising that, and I'm not advertising it. But
you want to get a cake tomorrow?
No, that's all right. I'm spending my birthday here in Richmond. But I was interested in gadgets and things, and I found the organ intriguing. I didn't fully understand the sound, but I saw all the buttons and switches and things. And I wanted to move into the organ, but my parents wanted me to take piano lessons, and that seemed to be the thing to do. So really, I've only had piano lessons in my life. I learned to play the organ legitimately by watching people. And I'm here to say that you don't have to have a teacher. If you're really willing to learn and willing to read and study and watch what people are doing and practice, that's the key. You're not going to learn how to play the organ or the piano or cook or do anything else overnight, as long as you keep at it. And the main thing is finger dexterity. And I practiced.
Now, what was your first exposure to the instrument?
First exposure I had to the organ was a church organ, Grace Episcopal Church in Oak Park, Illinois, which is near Chicago. A big 4-manual, 4-keyboard, 100 and some odd rank thing, and I sang in the choir. And at age 12, I became the assistant organist there. I could barely reach the pedals, but the organist there took me under his wing and taught me very casually what to do and how to do it. And that was church music. And then the pressures to be, I got into popular music, theater organ, and I enjoyed the sound of that. I still today enjoy playing in the churches and the big cathedrals, the big pipe organs. Classical music is the foundation, in my opinion, of all of music. And if you can learn some of the works of Bach, the Beer Barrel Polka comes easy.
Beer barrel polka. I don't. Maybe I play enough Bach. Maybe I should try the beer barrel polka. I see we have a caller online too, and it looks like Nicholas. Good evening, Nicholas. How are you?
Yeah, good evening.
Do you have a question for us?
Yes, I do. Who was Robert Hope Jones?
Robert Hope Jones was an electrical engineer back in the early 1900s that is probably the father of the theater pipe organ. And he used to work for the Wurlitzer Company and really invented what we now know as the unit orchestra, the theater pipe organ, and created all sorts of new sounds as far as the tonal qualities of the pipes, some of the electrical, and I'm not saying electronic, but some of the electrical capabilities of the instrument, the percussions, and he's really responsible for the theater organ as we know it today.
Does that answer your question, Nicholas?
Yes, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing him at the barbecue this evening.
Okay.
Oh,
thank you,
thank
Nicholas,
you.
for calling. We also have a caller on line 1. Mary Ann, how are you tonight?
Fine, thank you.
Excuse me, Mary Agnes.
Yes.
Okay.
What I would like to know is how does one join the Virginia Theater Organ Society or find out more about it? What is it they really do?
Okay.
I would like to divert to Paul, because if you join the Virginia Theater Organ Society, you also join the American Theater Organ Society.
Okay, Paul.
Well, you can simply write to us at the Virginia Theater Organ Society, Post Office Box 7082, Richmond, Virginia 23221. And we'll be glad to send you all the information necessary on how to join the Virginia Theater Organ Society, including our membership applications and all of the necessary items you'd need.
Okay, did you get that, Mary Agnes?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And if I can interrupt, maybe this isn't part of what you ought to do, but if anybody were to call into the station, is that an offering? We could leave an address and they could call and get more information. Is that possible?
Well, sure, yeah.
Okay.
That's fine, yeah. Jack, do you play by notes as well as by ear? I mean, I assume you play up most of your concerts by ear.
That's a funny. People have come up to me and say, do you play by ear? And I say, no, I use both hands and both feet. No, I cannot play by ear at all. And by ear means that you can hear a tune on a radio and be able to play something. I have to have played it from music, and I read music, and I have to memorize it, and then I make an arrangement out of it. And every arrangement is different. There are some organists out there that when you hear them play it the first time or the 15th time, it's exactly the same. I get inspired by the audience that's out there, the instrument that I'm playing, the morning, the afternoon, the time of day, what happened the night before. But I am not a by ear organist, but I take the music and then interpret it the way I think I want to do it, because there's an interesting thing that goes on today. You can take a popular song that comes out, any kind of music, country, western, rock and roll, whatever it is. The artists, after they have performed this and made their $1 million records and their platinum records and everything else, translate that to a musical form, sheet music that you can buy for $1.75. If you were to play that music note for note, it probably isn't going to come out the way the artist played it. I don't care who it is.
No, you're right.
And I look at the music as a roadmap or a guide as to getting the harmonies, getting the melodies, and everything else. And then the interpretation is the key to musicianship. Musicianship as opposed to being a technician. To interpret that music, to make Jack Moelmann play the song this way, somebody else play it that way, somebody else play it that way. How many versions have we heard of the song Memories from Cats? You know, everybody out there is doing it, and they all do it differently. Maybe too many, but they're all doing it. They're all taking the basic notes, and some of them are adding this and adding that, and that's what I like to do.
Okay. It's time for us to take a quick break. I hope you'll stay with us. Remember to give us a call at 353-1111 and ask Jack a question. We'll be back in just a second. Welcome back to Richmond Arts Review. Jack just told me he wants to be on Dr. Ruth's show, so we'll try to arrange that for his next visit. Jack, do you get to travel very much? I mean, you seem to play concerts all over the country. Did you play at Chaminade High School a year or two ago in Long Island?
No, I missed that. Let me tell you this about travel. I travel with the Air Force all the time, and I do not fly in Air Force planes. I mean, I fly like everybody else. I've got a word out amongst the various organ society chapters, and that is that if somebody wants me to play, and I'm not a top organist, I have fun. I get up there and I enjoy myself, and I'll play all the razzmatazz and that sort of stuff. I do not practice. I'll be unprepared for the one tomorrow, but I have fun. I'm not the perfectionist. But if these chapters around or these groups want to have me, they just send me an airline ticket, a token little extra to pay for whatever, put me up in their houses or feed me or whatever, you know, expenses, and I'll come play. And I say they get what they pay for. But I enjoy doing it.
Well, give us some idea of where the places you've been in, like, the last 6 months.
Oh, gosh. I had the opportunity last November to go up to Chicago at a beautiful theater and play a concert with Bob Ralston. Bob Ralston was the organist on Lawrence Welk. And I was just the MC, and he and I did a piano organ duet at the end. And then I ended up on the organ, and he played the piano with God Bless America. I went down to Phoenix, Arizona, and played at the Valley of the Sun chapter in the First Christian Church. Even though that sounds like a church, they had a theater pipe organ in their parish hall, and I did that. About a month from now, the 1st of May, I'm going to go up to Chicago and play at the Arcadia Theater. Coming up in September, I'm going to go up to Detroit, Michigan, and play the 60th anniversary of the opening of the Redford Theater on their Barton organ, and 2 nights, and accompany the movie The General, which was done about 1928, a Civil War film featuring Buster Keaton. I'm not out of advertising work. I'm going to go wherever I can, when people want me, and when they start taking advantage of me, then I'm going to quit that.
Oh.
But I have not been back to Richmond since 1986 when they had the convention here. I think that's when it was. And when they called me up about 3 weeks ago or a month ago and said, would you come down and play a concert for our chapter, I jumped at the chance. I said, just buy me an airplane ticket and I'll be there.
Do many people do this, and who are some of the top people in the business?
Okay, I got to answer the question in 2 ways. Do many people do this the way I do it? No. The top people in the business are in the business. and I am not in the business. I represent an organization, the American Theater Organ Society, as sincerely as I represent the United States Air Force, and that is that each has a purpose. The Air Force to create peace in the world, and the Theater Organ Society, the American Theater Organ Society, ATOS, to preserve the theater pipe organ. And I do that as a hobby. We have some terrific organists around, and I've mentioned some of their names. Ron Rode, Walt Stroney, George Wright, who's made records over the years, Lynn Larson. A lot of these people have been through town. This is their living. They go through, and I think, and they are the true professionals in this. They make money at it, but still I think they're doing it as a love for trying to preserve the organ. Because if we don't maintain the instruments that we have, like at the Byrd Theatre and the mosque, and soon the organ at the Carpenter Center here in town, there's not going to be any place for these people to play. I will always have the Air Force.
Okay. Paul, what about the Carpenter Center? Is there an organ there? Or
The organ at the Carpenter Center is still under construction. It was an organ transplant, if you like, from another installation where it was, and it has been around the country quite a bit. So when it arrived in Richmond, it was had considerable damage during the operation of taking out of the previous installation. The present installation, as I said, is still under construction. Progress is being made daily, but we're still waiting to have it concert ready. So since the entire work is being done by volunteers, it will take a considerable amount of time to get it all together.
will that organ be on the level or the level of quality of the Byrd and the mosque, do you think?
That's difficult to say. You don't really know what an organ will sound like until you hear its voice in the area, in the enclosure where it's placed. And it requires some changes when it is in place and after it's working properly. A process called voicing, where the individual pipes are changed in order to suit the environment where they are. So it's difficult to say how that organ will sound, but it is certainly the largest, it will be the largest organ in Richmond. It has 21 ranks of pipes.
Okay. We have a couple calls waiting for us. Good evening. Brandy, how are you?
Fine.
Do you have a question for us?
Yes, I've been to the Byrd Theatre, and I was wondering where the pipes are.
Okay, maybe I can answer that, even though Paul could probably, since he's local. It's typical of most theaters. As you look at the stage, on either side of what they call a proscenium arch are located the pipes. And, you know, if you look on one side of the theater in the Byrd, you'll see a piano, and the other side you'll see a harp. And the pipes are on both sides, and I think in the Byrd, there's some even on the top, or most of them are on the top.
Actually, most of the pipes at the Byrd Theatre are located over the proscenium arch.
Okay.
And there is a grill work at that position, and the pipes are positioned in a chest behind that grill work. And they're, in those chests are what we call swell shutters, which alter the volume of the pipes. And all of that speaks down toward the audience through the grill work. So the presence of the organ at the Byrd Theatre is quite pronounced because of its placement.
Yeah, I have to stand corrected there, because most theaters, they're on either side of the proscenium, and that's maybe a little different.
It's a shame that we don't have a slide of the pipework at the Byrd, because it really is fascinating when you see that. It's beautiful back there.
Most people never get to see the real workings of a pipe organ, and it's quite fantastic what really is required to produce the sound that's heard. The pipes range in size from one that's not much larger than a pencil to ones that are quite large in diameter and are 8 to 16 feet tall.
And I might just add this, Brandy, in addition to the pipes in their size, up there in those chambers are bass drums 30 inches in diameter and 8-foot xylophones and all the percussions we've talked to earlier.
Thank you very much, Brandy, for your call. We have George on line 2. Good evening, George.
Yes, hello. I wanted to ask a question to both Jack and Paul. As a film buff, and I know there are a lot of us out there that are really digging into the old films and want to see more of the silent films and the fabulous music that went with them, And you know, there's a groundswell of interest in this, and young people and old alike, but they're just digging into all the, you know, the media. What can we as a community do to get more performances of silent movies with live organ accompaniment? And also, to Paul, could he comment on I think you already did, about the sound effects and the various sounds that come out of the organ and how they're achieved and what it takes to keep all that going?
Maybe let me take on the first question, and then we'll let Paul handle the second one. How do you get people to, or the community, to put on more of these? I think one of the first things that you can do is, when a program is advertised to be a silent movie with organ accompaniment and one of the old classic films, and this is all part of publicity, is get everybody around to show up. If you can show participation in an event like a silent movie classic, you know, Gone with the Wind and all of the other classics that have ever come around have only been successes because there have been people lined up at the box office. And if we can fill the Byrd Theatre or the Mosque or the Radio City Music Hall in New York or wherever with these things and show an interest, people are going to be bringing those out. Obviously, they're not going to create old Laurel and Hardy movies, and people will argue whether it's an advantage or disadvantage to be adding them to color, as they're doing nowadays, because people can only watch something that's in color. But when you hear about them, advertise to your friends, bring everybody around, fill the house. And I'm trying, and I know the people in Virginia are, to, whenever they're putting on a program, get maximum media out of that. And I think that's the only way that you can show an interest in it, or write to somebody, write to the newspapers and say you want more. You know, the public can influence a lot. And with that, Paul, I'll give you the second question.
Well, the second question would take another half hour to answer fully. However, there are quite a few special effects in the theater organ. To name a few that aren't usually known, there is a wind sound, which can be turned on and off with a small switch on the organ to create an unusual effect. There are also things like bird whistles.
The Mosque has one of those, doesn't it?
The Mosque has a bird whistle. These are simple little metallic whistles that are blown with a stream of air, and the bird whistle actually contains a liquid inside that causes a warbling sound. Those are just a few of the many, many sound effects that are available on a theater pipe organ.
I have several questions, and we're going to have to take a break pretty soon. What about the majority of the theater organs in this country? Are they in good shape? George, thank you very much for your question. Are the majority of the theater organs in good shape, and have they been preserved, or are we losing quite a few?
If you go back to what we had in the 1920s and the 1930s as far as organs, there aren't nearly as many as there were before, because it's very expensive to maintain a theater, and the organ is just one part of the theater. Fortunately, the organs that are in some of the bigger theaters, the Fox in Atlanta, the Byrd we've been talking about here, Radio City Music Hall, have been preserved fairly well. There's no company in existence today, I mean a big company that goes out like Sears and Roebuck and maintains these things. There's a very select group of people that are part of the American Theater Organ Society that are really truly qualified technicians that really know the insides and outs. Most of the maintenance of these are on the part of people that devote their spare time, have learned the art over a period of time. And you've got quite a few of them here that are maintaining the Byrd and the Mosque on their own time. They're not paid to do that. Fortunately, we are holding on to what we have, but it's not so much the organ as it is what is the future of the building. Mm-hmm. If the building is not going to, the mosque holds 1,300 and some people. If the place ever comes and can't support itself by participation in the movie theaters, the building's going to go. Somebody's going to turn the thing into a parking lot. At that time, the organ's going to go. We've lost an awful lot of them. We have preserved theaters at the same time.
Do you all ever get out and fight to save them?